They shoot the shit. They shoot the shit. Shoot, 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 shit, shit, shit. Shooting the shit with Chippa.
Welcome back, everybody, to Shooting the Shit with Chippa. Have another special guest tonight. You will have probably already heard her husband, Kyra Nagisa. Yes, I got it. On an episode of this, and now tonight I have Debbie Morse. So, Debbie, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here and excited to shoot the shit.
Awesome. As you all know, I am the Chippa, Chris Chipman. I run 4 shows because I just can't get enough of not having time. The Chipman Brothers Tangent with my brother Movie Bob, Shooting the Shit with Chippa, which you're listening to right now. The Talkbuster podcast, which hopefully, as of the recording of this, will have had, or the release of this, will have had the announcement of my live show happening in August in Salem, Massachusetts, that I'm really friggin' excited about. And right? And the Creating Geeks podcast, which I do with my wife Sarah. So you can go to my Patreon and check out my new tiers. You can also get me to $350 on that Patreon and get a Blockbuster hooded sweatshirt signed by the entire staff of the last Blockbuster on the planet at the Bend, Oregon store, including the owner of the franchise who has owned it since 1990. That is a one-of-a-kind thing. I would love to keep it for myself, but I'd much rather give it away to one of you and get my Patreon numbers up. So get on that. So without further ado, Debbie, tell us a little bit about where you're from, and then we will get ourselves into Right Quote Wrong Movie as an icebreaker to kick off the evening.
Cool. Well, I am actually originally from Nebraska, born and raised. Went from a tiny little town out in the middle of nowhere nobody's ever heard of. And I went to college at a religious college in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is the capital. And then got a job. Again, I was raised Seventh-day Adventist, and I grew up in that religion. It's everything. It's a subculture not quite like any other, because it permeates your whole life. Because I went to Adventist schools my whole life, Adventist churches, and then I got a job in an Adventist hospital, and that's what I now live in Orlando because I got a job straight out of college down here, and I've been here ever since.
So, wow, I mean zero offense by this or to cut you off. My only exposure to Seventh-day Adventist is through the Gilmore Girls, which my wife watches religiously. Is there any truth to the ridiculous depiction of that religion in that show?
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
pretty accurate. It's funny you mentioned that, because that was one of the talking points when Karu and I were, just starting to date. He's also a huge fan of Gilmore Girls, and
It's fantastic. I can't believe I slept on it when it was on originally.
it's a really great show. It really is. I admittedly I haven't watched the whole thing myself, but I've watched enough, and the smart writing, love it very much. Enjoy watching it. But yeah, their portrayal is pretty accurate. I could go and go. There's all kinds of craziness coming from that.
So are you still Seventh-day Adventist? Is that like again? And I say not to offend because I don't want to pass judgment on it. I was brought up Catholic, and I'm so far removed from that at this point that, but I still find myself like, if I go to a Star Wars film and they say "May the Force be with you," and I go, "And also with you, Father." Oh crap!
No, I am not at all religious anymore, and it's not offensive in any way, not at all. It's the funny thing. We have some friends who had with their own podcast, which is no longer, well, it's still available, but they're not making it anymore. But called Seventh-day Atheist, and it's
Oh, that sounds great.
oh, it's some of the episodes are really entertaining. It's quite the thing, and it talks a lot about, like, if you ever want to know the craziness of the kind that I grew up in, like, they talk a lot about it. But we became friends through there. I was on a couple of their episodes, and every Friday night, they have, like, open things up at their house and just, hey, come over, hang out. There's usually alcohol. A lot of times there's snacks. You can bring snacks if you want, and it's just very chill hang time. And it's with some really awesome people. And we were actually over there earlier tonight, and just
Oh, awesome.
funny the resonance there. Um,
So speaking of very, very crazy religions, um, if you've never listened if you haven't listened to a lot of my show yet, I'm not sure if you have or not. There's this thing that I always joke with people that I can still, without even really knowing the context or being able to tell you anything about them in particular, recite every book of the New Testament verbatim from my brain.
uh-huh.
You want to hear this? Because it's kind of creepy.
Well, I can join you. I
Okay.
think I could join you.
Ready?
Actually,
Want to try to do it together?
sure.
All right.
Sure.
Matthew, Mark, Luke,
Luke,
John, Acts, the letter to the Romans,
Romans,
1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians.
Corinthians,
I thought it was Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians.
Well, there's
1st and
Corinthians
2nd.
in there too.
Didn't we already go through Corinthians?
Did we? Oh, crap.
All right. 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon. Hebrews, the book of James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, Jude, Revelation. Do you know what's messed up about that?
What?
That was drilled into our heads through a song sung by the girl who did the voice of Ariel in The Little Mermaid. Because she was a Christian pop star outside of her work with Disney.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That sounds that sounds about right. Sounds about right.
So that was my catatonic and that's the thing that I'm an engineer, and it's the same thing that always bothered me about college, even with any sort of teaching that just teaches you by blind memorization without understanding practical application is terrible in my book. And that's how I felt my whole religious education was like, I'm not really getting if there was a benefit to be found here, you're not teaching it to me. You're teaching me blind followership. And I can see why. I'm not going to call them lesser people, but people that are more susceptible to that, find comfort in that. Oh, I don't have to think. Oh, thank you. Yeah, tell me what to do. And it's sad. And I'm glad that it works for a lot of people in a good way, but it's the not so good way that I take offense to.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that, because that's a downer of a. Sorry, and we got there from Gilmore Girls. Okay, so to jump back because I do also run a podcast called The Tangent, so that's not by not by chance. I did forget to mention my $15 or more patrons, who I have to say their name on every episode. That's Mason, Christopher Finnick, Patricia Chipman, my mom, hi mom, and Hugh K. Campbell Jr., that's Green Goblin. And now I'll leave space for an advertisement, because I get those now, even though they don't pay me for them, but I put them up here anyway. So are you ready to play Right Quote Wrong Movie, my friend?
Let's go for it.
All right. Do you understand the rules? Would you like me to recite them again?
Go ahead and recite them.
Okay. So Right Quote Wrong Movie, you have a hand of 10 quotes, correct?
Yes.
So have you ever played Cards Against Humanity?
Yes, I have.
So those are your 10 white cards. And in this game, your 10 white cards are quotes and the movie that they're from. And that's really just there because not everybody immediately recognizes movies from quotes, like me and my crazy friends. Or, most of the people I've played this game with. We're going to go through 3 rounds tonight because there's only 2 of us, and I don't want this to go on forever. And we're both just going to kind of vote together instead of one person being it and then having to pick through, because what's the fun of just reading one quote? I have a random number generator or a random number picker where you are going to say a number between 3 and 145, and that's going to pick a film, and that film is our black card. And you and I then have to pick a quote that goes with that movie, but it's not from that movie. And examples of this are The Passion of the Christ. If someone asks if you're a god, you say yes from the Ghostbusters. Titanic, I think we're going to need a bigger boat. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
with that, if you are ready, a number between 3 and 145, please.
3 and 145. 72.
72. Star Wars.
Okay. All right.
And because I made these short, the word Star Wars would be, I guess, A New Hope, because that's what it was originally called when it was released.
Mm-hmm.
So you are welcome to go first with a quote, as you are my guest.
To start off, I'll go with the obvious choice here.
Okay.
Say goodbye to your two best friends, and I don't mean your pals in the Winnebago.
So I had mine locked in before you said that, and you know what? I'm also going to throw out a Spaceballs quote because I have one. Oh shit, there goes the planet. But I think yours is better.
Oh, thank you.
So round one goes to you. No, I love that quote. I love that quote. I also I hate it when my Schwartz gets twisted. That's another great quote from that movie. I'm half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend. God, I love Spaceballs. I think I need to go watch that now. All right. Round two, if you will. And I hope you're having fun because I love this game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go for it.
Oh, okay, I'll pick. I'm gonna go with 121. Dawn of the Dead.
Ooh. Let's see. Okay, I've got it. If you're ready.
Yes, I am.
All right. You used to be vegan. Now you will be gone.
Wait, vegan? Wait a minute. No. What do you mean chicken parmesan isn't vegan? I love that movie so much. Brandon Ruth, man.
He was
Ruth.
awesome. He was in it. Chris Evans was in it.
Punched the highlights out of her hair.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to attempt to top that, but I'm not sure if I can. Here we go. This is a dude who 700 years ago totally ravaged China, and who we were told just 2 hours ago totally ravaged Oshman's Sporting Goods. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Nice.
So what do you think? Whose is better?
Oh, that almost feels like a draw.
I'm kind of right there with you because they're both very applicable.
Yeah, they're different, different tones, but they both feel like they fit. So,
Speaking of that Bill and Ted quote, you've heard they're making a third one?
yes. Yes, I
I'm
have.
very excited about that. Although I don't know how we're going to do it without George Carlin.
Yeah.
Kind of a bummer.
But if it's the same writers,
It is.
so I suspect they will find a way. They'll get. I don't know who would be the rough equivalent of George Carlin today.
You know what would always be really funny? If they got Ringo Starr to play Rufus, because George Carlin was Mr. Conductor as well on Shining Time Station. And so
That's right.
So was Ringo Starr. I've always joked that they could just swap the two of them out, and wouldn't it be hilarious?
That would be awesome.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's.
I wrote a song about an octopus. Yes, you did, Ringo. We hung it right up here on the fridge, didn't we? You ever seen that? What is that? What is it called?
I feel like I might
Walk
have.
Hard. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Oh, no, I think I've seen that scene. I've seen clips
Scene
from
where
that
Jack
movie.
Black is Paul McCartney and his accent keeps changing. from like really Scottish to I'm bloody Paul McCartney. And none of them actually look like who they're supposed to be, so they always have to go, yes, John Lennon of the Beatles. It's such a good gag. I love the hell out of that movie. I don't know. I don't think you're gonna make it. You're cut in half real bad. That's one of those the Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly movies that just floored me at how funny.
Mhm.
I don't think they can make music biopics anymore because of that movie, because it just took them all down so hard. Watching Bohemian Rhapsody, all I could think about the
Oh,
whole time was Walk Hard. Like it's
oh,
hitting all the beats.
that
It's kind
movie
of a
just,
bummer.
oh, it made me sad because
It's such a
Freddie
bummer
deserved
because
so much more.
it's such a bummer because Malik, you could tell, showed up to be in the movie they should have made, and
Yeah,
they didn't make that movie.
yeah, I felt bad for him because he did
He was
great.
fantastic. When the movie just stopped and let him be Freddy, it was great.
Yeah,
Like the Live Aid thing at the end, I'm sitting there going, "Wow, I wish this was the whole movie."
yeah, he got like he was Freddie. He had the presence and the
Yeah,
charisma, and he just was. And in that shit movie,
yeah, it's a
oh,
bummer. It ended up being like watching a greatest hits album get played, which is fine if that's what I knew what I was going in for, but you
that's
know,
that's not what
just
you
play
want from
just
that
play some Queen
movie.
songs then.
Yeah,
Like you know what I mean? This isn't like an ABBA reunion.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
It's
Yeah, it is what it is.
one of the greatest bands in history.
I haven't seen the Elton John one, but I guess they did a better job with that from what I've heard.
Same here. I've been hearing very good things, and yeah, I actually want to see it because it sounds like they do some unique things, and they're actually telling a good story instead of just ticking off the milestones of his life.
Right. It's funny because the guy who's making Rocket Man is the guy who uncreditedly finished Bohemian Rhapsody when Bryan Singer just left.
Oh, I think I heard that. Yeah.
And when the Oscar buzz for Bohemian Rhapsody was flying around and Bryan Singer was getting all the credit as director, this guy started amping up the trailers for Rocket Man. And it was unfortunately, because again, Rami Malek was awesome. It unfortunately took some cheap shots at him. Like, oh, the actor
Mm.
playing Elton John is actually singing on screen. You're just like, oh, ho, 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 ho. because
Oh.
because I did think it was kind of cool with Malik how they actually taught him to sing. Of course, not too many people singularly can hit Freddie Mercury's vocal range, but they taught him to sing like him. And
Mm-hmm.
most of the singing you're hearing in the movie, even though it's pre-recorded, has Malik's voice mixed in with Mercury's
Mm-hmm.
and then other people. So that's why it seems a bit more natural. Like it doesn't just sound like they're playing a concert tape.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
so that's cool. I mean, sound design and
Yeah.
stuff, great. But just direct a movie. Like
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
I
seriously. Well, and I mean, I think Elton John, yeah, you're like you were saying, Elton John's vocal range is somewhat easier to hit than Freddie Mercury.
right. You could
He's,
you might as well just teach an actor to do it and have him do it.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then the performance comes through, and that's what Elton John's really about. Like if you make a Bruce Springsteen biopic, it doesn't need to sound perfect, right? Springsteen's about a character.
Yeah.
If you can get a
Yeah.
person that can nail his character, a lot of people can sing like him. That's not it's
Yeah.
not just the voice, right, with
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Do you buy them as the person? Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, tangents even in the middle of the game. Cool. All right. Round three is yours.
All
Pick a
right.
number.
Let's see. Let's go with 131.
Freddy versus Jason,
Ooh.
which showed up on my Twitter earlier. I think it was Scott Weinberg or someone posted it and said, tell me the name of this movie, except don't use the real name. And what was it? One of my favorite ones was Eric Vesp. Quint there did Freddy Got Fingered, and it's hard to come up with a better one than that.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, yeah. Although I thought for being kind of a meta joke, "Stop or My Mom Will Shoot" was pretty good. I came up with that one, but
Yeah,
that's a little too deep dive into Jason's lore.
yeah, yeah. Well, it shouldn't be. It's the first movie. That shouldn't.
Exactly. But some people were kind of like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh,
here we go."
uh,
Anyway, so go for it. Give me a Freddy versus Jason quote.
all right. Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
Imagine if he was in that movie.
Oh my god. Oh,
So I don't have one that's anywhere close to as good as yours, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna go with "I'm not even supposed to be here today" from Clerks. So
nice.
I think you win that round. So that's right quote wrong movie. Thank you very much for playing.
You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed it. And so think of that being played Cards Against Humanity style and having I think I'm up to 300 quotes now. Um, but I hope to have 500 by the time I try to actually sell it. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. And you can have
Yeah.
expansion packs up the wazoo.
Yeah.
All right. So
Make
with
sure
that,
you
let's.
get in there. Let me just mention, make sure you get in there some quotes from Emperor's New Groove if you don't already
I
have
have a
them.
few, but please, if you'd like to send me some when this is over, I'd love to throw more in. But I have a few key ones. I still can't think of that movie without "Beware the Groove." Speaking,
Yes.
but there's
Yes.
so many good quotes from that movie.
Oh God. Pull the lever, Kronk. Pull the lever.
I love that movie.
Oh
That was
God,
the
yes.
last one of the last films from that branch of Disney before they shut it down. That was unfortunately the branch of Disney that was also making the straight to video sequels. And so they disappeared in the collateral damage of um the Pixar guys coming in and going, "Hey, we're number one stockholders now in Disney. What's the first thing we're going to do? No more shit sequels." And they just shut down that whole branch, but it killed off the company that did Emperor's New Groove and Lilo and Stitch, which is kind of a
Oh,
bummer.
that's seriously a bummer.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's
awesome.
weird collateral damage, right?
Yeah.
I think
It's
I think a bunch of them came back though and worked on Frozen and Moana in like the background though. So
oh good.
yeah.
Good.
So at least they're working. But man,
Yeah.
Lilo and Stitch was such a weird friggin' movie. I love it.
It is. It is, but it's so much heart.
Oh yeah, it's quintessentially Disney while still being very different than what they normally do. It had more of like a Miyazaki thing going on,
Yeah.
which was really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all about, it was about sisters and yeah, very very Miyazaki, very yeah, and yeah, it did not feel not the art didn't really look like Disney. It didn't really
No,
feel like Disney. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
very different. Very different. Same with the Emperor's New Groove. Like it just had that. It was a different beast. They were
Mm-hmm.
trying different stuff.
Yeah.
So back to Nebraska, just for a minute, only because I have no reference. So
Sure.
tell me about Nebraska. I am born and raised in Lynn, Massachusetts, which is um a not very well liked town. Um, but I love it. You know, every town has its good and its bad, but it's cool. It's just north of Boston. It's right on the ocean, so
Oh.
there's a plus. Like I can literally smell the ocean right now.
Oh, you still live there?
Yeah, yeah. I bought my grandmother's house, so
Oh,
I live.
wow.
Yep. That was fun. That was 7 years ago. She passed away on my wife's birthday,
Oh
and
man.
yeah, oh yeah, and she
Oh,
was she was the most beloved woman. All of my neighbors still on the street, still every time they see me, Just, one, oh, Chris, we're so glad that someone from your family is still here, and oh my God, we missed your grandma so much. Like every time
Oh.
that she was just incredible. And I stepped up and I bought I bought it. I mean, five boys were raised here, my uncles and my dad, and
Mm-hmm.
every Sunday of my childhood I spent here. So, I had a kayak and a bunch of boats here, and I bought the house and all my stuff is here. It's like, oh, I already own all these things that are here. All right, this is cool. But it's
Oh,
been an
that's.
undertaking. It's a big house. It's a big Dutch colonial. It was built in
Oh.
1926. We've replaced 48 windows, repaired a roof, did a full electrical upgrade,
Oh,
reno-
wow.
been renovating, taking off wallpaper and sealing lead paint, and oh yeah, oh
Oh
yeah,
man.
it's
Yeah, you
fun.
you bought a project
Bought a
for
project,
the
but
house.
it was a known project. I
Mm-hmm.
knew all the bumps and scrapes getting into
Mm-hmm.
it. So, but it's something
Okay.
I'm proud of. But yeah, so very different, I'm sure, than Nebraska. So tell me about Nebraska.
Yeah, very, very, very rural. Um, Out in, like I said, out in the middle of nowhere, not very little to do. I was very much a bookworm as a kid, so this I was never, I was I grew up not only part of the time was in a really small town, part of the time we lived out in the country, and so I grew up pretty isolated. Um, yeah, usually the most stuff to do is usually drink, like most of your small towns, it's drinking, sex, and drugs usually. Unfortunately.
Yep.
Um, you I'm guessing is you said Lynn,
Well,
Massachusetts?
Lynn, Massachusetts. So Lynn has a poem, Lynn, the City of Sin. You never go out the way you go in. Has been known forever. Lynn is uh, Lynn again. It's a suburb of Boston. It's a couple cities north, and
Mm-hmm.
it just unfortunately has um it's always been a melting pot of immigrants. So when my parents were younger, it's where there was the Polish section and the Italian section and the
Mm-hmm.
and now it's Cambodian, and it changes itself around, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
always the poorer working class immigrant folk, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
it got a bad rap, and that bad rap just kind of continued. And the unfortunate part is they, in the like early 90s, built this giant like central square style train station and brought the commuter rail out from Boston to a stop here. Now it used to be that the only stop was at the GE, the General Electric, which started in Lynn. That's like Lynn's claim to fame.
Oh wow.
And then they did this big one, but the commuter rail is like the paid like Amtrak train to get in and out of Boston, so it's got
Mm-hmm.
multiple lines going all throughout the state, and we're on the coastal one. Well, there's also the subway, which is like the cheap commuter, like get in and out quick thing that stops in Revere, and they put in the infrastructure to bring it to Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
So think like that's like 30 miles outside of Boston is where Lynn is, maybe
Oh wow.
25. And
Mm-hmm.
Revere's like 20. So it's like, you know, it would have been a really great thing for the downtown. Like it would have, built up, but it never happened. So the downtown has been like this kind of wasteland of dying businesses. It all kind of centralized through the newspaper, which was the daily evening item, and it was the last family owned newspaper, I think, in the East Coast.
Oh wow.
For a long time. My dad worked there. And it's now moved. It had a working press, so they were printing for like the Salem Evening News and the Boston Herald, and all these places. They were doing contract printing,
Mm-hmm.
and they finally closed all that down. And it's the newspaper's still there, but it's they're not printing out of there anymore. So a lot of the business is kind of left, but it's slowly gentrifying, which is always sad, but
Mm-hmm.
always good for the building up of businesses. So it's becoming kind of this weird mix of like uh, ethnic nightclubs and cool like underground scene going on down there that
Mm-hmm.
it's a wasteland in the daytime and all of a sudden it's loud and crazy at night. But then they're bringing in kind of like the art, so the like underpasses under the trains and stuff, which are usually kind of dingy. Artists have come in and now they light them up. So there's all this like multicolor, technicolor lights that go off and big murals. So it's getting a lot of hipsters in. So a lot of high class restaurants are coming in,
Mm-hmm.
so, but it really, if it had that T stop,
Mm-hmm.
they just built a casino
Oh.
in Everett, which is a town over. And Massachusetts used to not allow casinos. So this is a big deal.
Oh.
And it's the Boston like Wynn Encore Casino opens in 2 days, and imagine with the train connected, you know. Anyway, so
Oh
that's
yeah.
the long and short of Lynn. But I live in an outskirt portion of it on a pond. I'm on a 72-acre pond.
Oh wow.
So I've got kayaks, and boats, and I'm actually right near Lynn Woods, which, funny enough about Lynn Woods, it was land owned by a guy who thought there was pirate treasure buried there. And this is the kind of area I live in. And it was well known. Like, this is like classified, like you go to like pirate museums and stuff. No, supposedly a pirate disappeared and hid in a cave in Lynn Woods, and the cave caved in during an earthquake, and he died in there, but he had a treasure buried in there, and they found his remains, but didn't find the treasure. So this
Wow.
guy owned the land, and he dug this tunnel on his property. And it's called Dungeon Rock, and you can tour it. They do like a pirate day with a tour. But his kids ended up owning the land and donated it to the city, and said the only stipulation of the donation is you cannot build on it. So we have this giant city park, that's these woods, that's all there because some guy thought there was pirate treasure buried there. And
That's
if you
awesome.
play Fallout 4, that's the newest one, right?
Uh,
Those Fallout games.
uh,
I
I
saw all these videos. Fallout 4 takes place on the East Coast. You start in Boston, and you can walk to Lynn and go to Lynn Woods and walk by Dungeon Rock and hang out on Stone Tower. And I'm looking at them going, man, if you look in that direction, that's where my house is.
nice.
It's really cool, you know?
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so that's where I am. So I take it Nebraska's different.
A little bit, little bit.
But yeah, sex and drugs and drinking are basically the name of the game around here too.
Yeah. It's most people think the state of Nebraska is very flat, and
Okay.
the Interstate 80, which runs all the way across the country.
Yes, it does. I've driven the flat portions of it closer to me.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that go? Maybe it's Ohio. Is that
That
where I
sounds
drove through?
right.
Ohio was the one of the most depressing states to drive through. We got on this road and looked, and it was just like a 10-degree downhill incline for like 700 miles. And
Oh.
you could just watch. And I'm like, really, guys? You like we could just put this in neutral and go at like 40 miles an hour down this road. It just
Save
kept
so much
going.
gas.
I think it
Yeah,
was Ohio. Yeah.
that probably. Well, it runs the interstate runs right along the Platte River, which
Hmm.
is I don't remember. It's whichever Indian tribe it was in that area, which means flat water, actually.
Gotcha.
Um, and so it's running through a river valley, so of course it's flat, but the whole state is not like that. It's actually pretty hilly. No mountains or anything like that, but it's actually pretty hilly. And there's if you like, people call Montana Big Sky Country. I think that's
Hmm.
Montana. It's the same kind of thing. I find it beautiful, but it's where I grew up, so there's I might be a little biased. Um,
No, I mean I have not seen enough of this country. That's why I ask the question, because I have no idea what to think of other states. Like, is it green? Which is like
dep-
foresty, or is it?
there's a decent amount of trees. Actually, Arbor Day was invented in Nebraska. They
Oh,
did,
the sea. There you go.
it was, yeah, they made a real concerted effort to plant trees in the Midwest. And so
Oh
there's,
yeah, 80 was definitely Ohio because if I had kept driving straight, I would have ended up right in Nebraska.
yep, yep, yep,
Yep. Okay.
yep.
So yeah, I stopped driving just shy of Iowa. So
Oh,
that's as
okay.
far west as I've driven.
Oh, wow. Oh,
I've been
wow.
all the way to California, but that's as far west as I've driven.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry.
No,
Now I
no.
get it. So it's dead. It is the most inland you can possibly be in the United States,
Yes.
basically.
Yes, it's pretty much center. It's I don't remember if the exact center of the country is in Nebraska or Kansas, but it's somewhere in there because it's
It looks
almost
like it's
dead.
really close.
It's dead center both east west and north south. So it's
Oh
pretty
shit.
close. Yeah.
But I would imagine you're probably prettier than Kansas.
Yes. That is
Because
absolutely true.
Kansas is nothing.
Oh yeah,
I feel
it
bad
is
for
much
Kansas.
better. Yes.
So do you guys get tornadoes in Nebraska?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely,
And I
absolutely.
don't mean to sound ignorant. I'm geographically looking at it
No,
now and
no,
shutting off my brain to what I know and just asking questions.
no, no. Ask away. Yes, absolutely. It's part of they say Tornado Alley, and that's part of it. Um, oh yeah, we grew up. You get tornado drills where the town siren will blow, and you're supposed to go to your basement. Um,
We've been getting this is when I was a kid, this was like there were things that your parents told you you never had to worry about where I am. And the two things were great white sharks, which was a lie. But but they said, "Oh no, they're only in warm water." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's seals in the water here, and I know that that's where great white sharks are." Um,
well, wasn't
and now
wasn't the
we're
book?
getting overrun with them. Yeah, the book Jaws took place off the
I
coast of
I
Massachusetts.
thought so. I was like New England somewhere. I was pretty sure.
Amity Island is supposed to be Martha's Vineyard, and they filmed it in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
was
that's
like,
an island off the coast of Cape Cod. Yeah.
yeah, because I think the real incident that was based on was a bull shark, I believe.
Yes, it was. And the thing that sucks about bull sharks, and this scared the shit out of me when I got old enough to learn this, is bull sharks can survive in fresh water.
I've heard
So
that.
bull
Yeah,
sharks. So you go, okay, well they can't get in this pond. Yeah, well if a river comes to that pond, they sure as hell can. And
yeah.
you're like, what? No, like that's why I don't swim in the ocean. Like, and I don't think you have to worry about that in Nebraska. Uh, but
No, no. That is one thing that we're not in danger of in Nebraska. That is
but so
true.
so it's funny when I was a kid, you'd go down to Cape Cod, and there's a beach down there that's known for having sharks
Hmm.
because it's on the side of the cape that's the furthest out into the Atlantic Ocean where they'd swim by to migrate, north and south. So,
Hmm.
it's basically Massachusetts sticks out into the middle of no man's land in the middle of the ocean. And uh you go to that beach and there was a sign when I was younger that would say, there's seals here. So, be careful when you're swimming if you're around seals because there could be sharks. It was
Sure.
a
Yeah.
very like it was a very like passive aggressive warning. Then 3 or 4 years ago, because the Earth has been warming up, they now have
Yep.
this giant sign that just basically shows Jaws and says, "Do not swim when there's seals around. There are great white sharks in the water." You're just
Oh
like, Jesus
wow.
Christ. And so I took that picture and sent it to my mom and said, "Remember when I saw Jaws when I was like 6 and you told me there was nothing to worry about because it was made up that a shark, that was the thing that's supposed to be scary about Jaws is that a great white shouldn't be in these waters. So don't worry about it." Yeah, you're a liar. She
Oh.
was like, because they're all over the place now. There's great whites all over the place down the Cape now. Like they just see them all the time. Like it's hilarious. And the other thing was tornadoes, because obviously, it's hilly and mountainous, not
Mm-hmm.
really the ideal, scenario for a tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, within the last 6 years, there have been two, obviously nowhere near the devastation of the tornadoes they get in the West, but
Mm-hmm.
because we're so population and building dense, the amount of destruction is insane. So we
Mm-hmm.
we got a tornado in western Massachusetts that carved like a cavern like through the middle of Holyoke and Springfield, just like straight down the middle. It
Oh
was
my gosh.
insane. It was absolutely insane. And again, Springfield and Holyoke, they're cities, but they're cities like out in the western part of Massachusetts where that's where we say there be dragons here, because that's that's the hill folk that live out there. Um, but it's funny that you get 30 or 40 miles outside of Boston, it's a completely different state. Like
Mm-hmm.
where the Patriots play football is in the middle of nowhere. Like
Oh
it's in
wow.
like East Bum. There's nothing there. Like, and then this giant stadium is just in the middle. It's not in Boston. It's in a town called Foxborough, and it's like an hour from Boston.
Huh.
It's really funny. But anyway, you're basically in Pennsylvania at that point. Um, but so then in Revere, which is right on the water,
Mm-hmm.
a tornado went straight down like a main street and ripped the roofs off of a bunch of businesses.
Wow.
And it's like that I mean, I Revere is like I can almost see Revere from my house. Like it's
Wow,
kind of
that
right.
that
And
must have been
those
scary.
those were two things we're not supposed to be scared of. Like we don't have air raid sirens around here.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way
Mm-hmm.
to warn people. Like it's just very weird, right? Because it's not shit we deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right? If there was a nuclear war, we're not going to be warned. Like
Right.
they're hitting Boston first. You,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, there's no there's it's Jesus. That's kind of scary. On 9/11, that was the when we didn't know what was going to get hit. The big fear
Mm-hmm.
was that the electric was going to be a target
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
the jet engine's there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
oh, so the city was on lockdown. You know,
Oh man.
and we had that whole marathon thing.
Oh.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Oh, I bet. I bet that was yeah.
So the town that was going down in
Mm-hmm.
is two towns away from where I work when the guy like escaped. So that like Watertown, where they were like chasing him through, was the town where near where I work. So you couldn't like go south on the highway of where I worked because they just declared martial law in Waltham. Like everyone was,
Mm-hmm.
it was insane. Like so we had people from there that just couldn't come to work because they couldn't leave their house. And then we had to go through it all again here in Lynn because um, Patriots Day, the Mark Wahlberg movie, was filmed in Lynn.
Ugh.
So they were filming Watertown for Lynn. So like I watched that movie and I just go, yeah, that's the street outside my house. They're driving down there, and like so and they reenacted a lot of that, so we got to see it all again. It was a little intense.
I bet.
But yeah, so anyway, I don't know how we got there. We're talking about tornadoes. But anyway, so what you said Seventh Day Adventist. So is that is like that like centralized to that location, like a big deal? Because I know in Connecticut and around here actually there's a ton of Seventh Day Adventist churches. But is that like highly concentrated in the area you're from?
Well, no, not in the area where I'm from. Keep in mind, it's funny that you know talking about size of cities and whatnot. Because if I say a small town, like Karu and I'll talk, and he'll like, oh yeah, the town I grew up in, small town, and I'm like, well, how many people, roughly. And he's like, oh, I don't know, 100,000, 150,000. And I laugh because my hometown is 5,500 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a settlement that doesn't actually, it's not even incorporated, doesn't actually still have a name, but the locals know it as Sacramento. It's literally, it's a restaurant, a grain elevator, and two houses.
Nice.
So,
That's North Brookfield. North Brookfield, Massachusetts. That's out where the dragons be, like I said, has a street light this year. My friend Keith is from there and he said they
oh,
finally installed a street light.
oh.
That was like their big claim to fame before was that they had no street light. I think his town's 3 streets. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
my town, my city is 95,000. Lynn.
Okay. Okay. That's that where I went to Lincoln, where I went to college, is about 150,000, or at least it used to be.
Yeah,
Um,
Boston is 690,000. But Boston encompasses so many cities. It's
mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
I just tell people I'm from Boston because Lynn's pretty close to them just calling it Boston.
Right,
But
right.
Boston is like 7 or 8 different towns.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, Orlando's the same. Orlando's
Yeah, oh
totally the
yeah.
same. It's I think we have 3 million people, but that's not in the city of Orlando. That's the greater Orlando area, which covers like something like, I don't know, 30, 40 miles square, something in
Yeah,
that
it's
range.
huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
Orlando is an interesting place. So what you eventually got to Orlando for work, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I got a again through the church. I got a job offer. Oh, and now I'm doing I'm tangenting, but no, where I come from, no, it's not well populated in general. But you were mentioning there's quite a few Seventh Day Adventists around where you are. The headquarters of the church is actually in Silver Spring, Maryland, which I don't know how
Okay.
far that is
Yep.
from
Nope.
where you are.
No, that makes sense. That's probably 8 hours south of here, but
Okay,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. That would make sense why the reach in Rhode Island and Connecticut is so strong
Mm-hmm.
because they're right above it. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's the one of the meccas. There's several meccas, and Orlando's one of them too, with the
That
hospital.
makes sense. That makes
Florida Hospital, or it's Admit Health now. But yeah, yeah, and it's you get people that something I could have been, that they grow up going to the church, they go to the schools, they go all the way through college, and then they get a job in the system. And some of those people never, they never leave the Adventist bubble. It's
Now is it Christian?
Yes, yes, it's a,
That's
it's a
what I
Protestant
thought, but I didn't want to
denomination.
assume.
Hmm.
Protestant denomination.
Yes.
That explains why some of the, even though it seems a bit intense, why some of the rules seem more lackadaisical. Because my grandma, I'm talking, like, the priests and preachers I've met that are in it don't carry themselves like a Catholic priest.
Hmm. Sure,
They're
sure.
more like a youth group leader, like they're your buddy. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I respect that. I appreciate that. My grandmother was Protestant, Methodist, and
Okay.
I always loved going to that church for stuff because it's like I feel like I'm being spoken to instead of like
Hmm.
spoken at.
Hmm. Hmm.
you know, like
Yeah.
like they want me to be part of the conversation,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I liked that. I don't know, for what it's
Yeah.
worth.
Well, no, that's interesting you mentioned that, because Adventism grew out of Methodism, actually.
Oh, okay.
The founders of the church, many of them were Methodists. One of whom was John Harvey Kellogg, the guy who's one of the guys who started Kellogg's. Yeah, he was an Adventist.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
This
Until he
is
went crazy
wild.
and was even too crazy for them.
Yeah, yeah, no, he was a nut bar.
Oh yeah. Oh
Isn't the
yeah.
Road to Wellville about him?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I
that
believe so.
fucking weird ass movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's pretty much yeah. That's the kind of shit I grew up with. There's a woman. Ooh, it's been a long time since I watched that, so I don't remember a lot of it, but I don't remember if there was a female prophet in it.
Yes, I think there was.
Yeah, that's like Ellen White. That's the church. Like, she's a big deal to them, and it's just kind of
Jesus.
it's so strange looking at it now, coming, someone who's not in that anymore, and just looking back on it, and it like I grew up weird.
So right, of course. So separating yourself from it, do they make that hard? They're not like crazy like the Scientologists where they try to ruin your life and your family if you try to leave.
No, no, nothing. Thankfully, no, nothing like that.
I figured as much, but I didn't want to bring up a bad subject if you
No, no, no. There's very few. Like, I'm pretty much an open book. There's very few things that are going to bother me to talk about. No, they're mostly very passive aggressive.
Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
So they might talk to you about um, how, worrying about, I'm praying for you, and I hope to see you in heaven, shit like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, the you know what you did, kid.
Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah, exactly,
Wait a minute.
exactly,
Are you are you
exactly,
cursing me?
exactly.
Oh, that's wild. So okay, so the Adventists brought you to Orlando for work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so how do we get to today? What you know, what transpired, you met Caro and all that. So what's that story sound like?
Um, it's interesting looking back on that. Because for a long time, being raised, so religious, and being on my own, I floundered for a while, and I kind of clung to the job, but I grew up, like I said, I grew up very isolated, and I grew up being a fair amount of my schooling was homeschooling. And so I, like, coming into the work world, I really struggled a lot. And so I had an excellent boss, who really championed me, and kind of helped teach me kind of how to work, be in a work environment. And I stayed there. But I clung to the job because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, even though I
Right.
was kind of miserable, because I was by the time I was there. I started in that job. I was a, a fair amount separated from the church already, and it's it's very, and I was in finance, and it's a very, like, the administrative people are very, it's very much drinking the Kool-Aid, and very much into the buying this shit, and much less so on the clinical side. But oh yeah, I was surrounded by it, and I'm bi. So it was having to hear people talking about, talking, gay bashing and
Oh yeah.
homophobia. And I was working, well, I had moved departments, but I was still there, when the Pulse tragedy happened.
Oh wow. Okay, so this is a recent switch from career.
Yeah, I left there. I was, yeah, I stayed there for well, I was there 11 years, little over 11 years total.
Wow.
Because, like I said, I floundered for a while, and it was kind of, and it, as bad as it was, they ended up firing me. Not Wasn't really deserved, but it kind of was the kick in the ass I needed. Um, and And along the way there in, let's see, 2013, Kairu and I met. We were friends first, and just and I say this, and I tell this story. I've told it on Twitter a few times, and I say it regularly. But for any of your listeners, like, the first time we met, I could tell he was attracted to me, but he also wanted to get to know me as a person.
That's
That is
awesome.
that is one of the sexiest things I've ever, like, anybody. That's the sexiest way almost anybody has ever approached me. Is like, that, yeah, wanted to get to know me. We spent, the first time we met, we talked Doctor Who, Supernatural. uh I'm blanking on, those two were the main ones.
Yeah,
Those two
yeah,
were
yeah.
like just nerdy stuff. And it was, he was the easiest person to talk to. And I was like, wow, because I have a hard time trusting guys. And
I
like,
don't blame you.
I felt at ease with him like instantly, which never happens.
That's
And
awesome.
it just, everything progressed very, very naturally. It was we were friends, and things became physical, and we wanted to hang out, we wanted to spend time together, and it just, gradually became more serious. And eventually he proposed, and we got married. And yeah, we'll be 3 years in October.
Oh,
So,
cool. Yeah. So we'll be oh God, 5 in
ah,
October. Wow.
very
I
nice.
I keep forgetting my daughter's almost 4 years old, and we were married for a year when we had her. So there you
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's nuts. Oh, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
So cool. It's it's kind of the same thing here. Me, I don't know if you've heard the story before, but me and my wife, she was really good friends with my one of my bosses at Blockbuster. And I was 17, she was 20, and she'd get off of work at like 10 at night and come because they'd hang out when he got off work at midnight. So she'd come and kind of, hang out in the store, walk around, talk to everybody, whatever, and they'd go and
Mm-hmm.
hang out. So I got off of work at 10, so I'd stick around until she came by, and we were just chums, hanging out, going to movies and stuff, and then we'd meet up with, our friend when he got off of work because I had to stop work at 10 because I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And things just progressed and became something else. And then I kind of panicked and was like, well, I'm 17, this girl's 20, I'm about to go to college, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I made up some dumb excuse, and broke it off, and then didn't date anyone all through college.
Oh,
and then
wow.
and then well, there were, like things that I thought were dating that never went
Well,
anywhere, you
sure,
know
sure.
but
Nothing
uh
serious.
nothing serious at all. And then senior year, I called her up, and we had been talking off and on, and we started hanging out again, and now we're married.
That's awesome. That's
That was a long
awesome.
time later because God, this was the year 2000 when we first met.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy.
That's
Got married
that's
in 2014.
that's the best way, I think, like, being friends first. And
Yeah,
there's other good ways too, but I think that's the best thing. Like, when that you want to spend time with each other, just hanging out.
yeah,
Just watching
exactly.
stuff, or doing chores around the house, and you can, you
Because after a while, that's what life's gonna be.
yeah, yeah, sex is great, but it's it's a finite amount of time, and there's going to be a lot of other time,
Yeah,
and you better want to spend time with that person during that other time.
exactly. Here to that. I think that's where most of the heartache in the world comes from, is people that think that only that one part of it is the only part that's important.
Yeah.
They forget to build any other part.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you
And then you feel empty and shallow and don't know why you're not compatible in any other way.
mhm. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get you there. Man, I love this show.
This is
I
great.
no, I like meeting people. Like I said, this is really cool. It was so nuts because I had just been rescheduling with you like that evening, and I started went down to record with your husband and didn't know, like I hadn't heard anything you guys had done together yet. So and you had just blind answered my call to have people on the show, and I was talking and he goes, "Oh yeah, you're recording with my wife next weekend," and I go, "Oh man, can you tell her I'm really sorry that I had to like keep rescheduling this?"
He
Like
mentioned
I
that.
felt so bad.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay.
So because the majority of this has been surprisingly about where we lived and where we grew up. So we're geeks, I would imagine. You've said geeky things. What's your geek persuasion? What's something that you absolutely love watching or doing or talking about that we could, bring this thing to a close by talking about for a little bit? What's your deal?
Oh,
Or something even that's in your brain right now, something new, something old, doesn't matter.
I love movies.
Aha.
I love reading. Um, I love American Horror Stories, one of my favorite shows.
Nice.
Supernatural. I have been kind of away from Doctor Who more recently, but I watched the new Who, up to like the first Peter Capaldi season.
Nice. I am a bit of a virgin for Doctor Who. I know all about it, but I've maybe watched 6 episodes of it entirely in my life. So I just need to sit down and do that. Is what it's
Yeah.
coming down to because I love what I've seen.
Oh, well, then yeah, for
Love it. It's
sure.
just it's one of those time.
Oh, trust me, I feel you. I feel you so hard on that. We have such a long list of shows that we want to watch, and we're so behind. Like we haven't watched the second season of American Gods yet. We haven't
Oh
watched
yeah.
the new season of Sabrina. Um, what's the there's at least a couple of other things that just off the top of my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, we gotta watch that, and it's uh so hard to find the time.
Oh yeah, especially for TV, and they make so much of it now. Like
Yeah.
that's why I'm a big. That's why movies have always been my thing, because I can just sit down and go, okay, I just need an hour and a half to 2 hours of just me time or
Mm-hmm.
us time. The kids are asleep. We can watch this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not yeah, because like when Stranger Things new seasons come on, I at the second season I just took the day off from work and I'm like, lock the kids in the playroom. We're watching this damn thing.
Nice.
Because I watched that show on a whim because of not having time for TV. The first
Mm-hmm.
season, I was like, okay, this is popular. It sounds like it's right up my alley. I'm gonna sit down. So I'd pop my headphones in and listen to an episode or two before I went to sleep, like sitting in bed on my
Mm-hmm.
cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is really cool. And I kept telling my wife, you're gonna love this show. Now she's a super geek too, but sci-fi is not really her bag.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be really good for her to take a chance on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like the first thing that she jumps on.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
Um,
sure.
so I said, you got to watch this show. And she finally one day, like when the kids, our daughter was asleep, started watching it. And she goes, oh my God, you didn't tell me this was so good. I'm like, no, I did. You just weren't listening. And then she just became obsessed with it. And so I'm excited for more of that. But again, I don't know where I'm going to find time to watch it.
Oh hell yeah. Oh yeah. So looking forward to that.
It's just it's such a it's an imperfect thing, and I love its imperfectness. I love the
Mm-hmm.
fact that it, like the type of thing it's trying to be, feels like it's being cobbled together and they're taking chances with character development and with the things that they're going to do. It feels like the great 80s movies that I liked, where it's like someone pitched a script and they got it in because, okay, it's, it's a kids in peril movie. People like that kind of stuff. Oh, but they're going to build a spaceship and go to space. Wait a minute. No, you didn't tell us that's what it was going to be about. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Just remember the part about the kids. Just follow that part.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, and those
I
kids
like
are so
that.
good.
Oh, they're so amazing. Every single one of them.
I,
So
I
perfect cast.
they're such good actors. I'm just blown away. Like, this is a level of acting that some adults can't do.
Yeah, and they just hit the ground running too. Like
Yeah.
it's awesome. And I guess what's his name? Carrie Elways is in the new season.
Ooh,
Yeah.
awesome. I had not
I
heard
I
that.
don't know if he's gonna be what's her name's boyfriend for this season or not. Maybe that's gonna be the joke. We're gonna bring in like an 80s actor every season and kill them off at the end to be her new boyfriend. Which I think would be hilarious
Yes.
if that's just what they're gonna do.
Yes. Yes.
Will Byers' mom can't stop making mistakes. That's the whole.
Oh. Oh, poor Bob. Bob
Oh,
was
he was
so
so good. I
great.
number one, I love Sean Astin. Number two, I met him at a book signing when he wrote that book, There and Back Again, an Actor's Tale, when they did the Lord of the Rings, and
Yes, I read that.
he's
Yeah.
the sweetest, nerdiest. Like he's the kind of guy that needs a handler to tell him to stop talking at his own book signing.
And
Like, because
that's
he
my
just
impression
geeks
of
out
him.
talking to
Yes.
people. Like
Oh.
we told him we were making a little indie movie, and he walked away from the table, and he's like, "Oh man," he goes, "What kind of camera are you filming it on?" He goes, "What?" We're like, "Okay, what's happening now?"
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
are those are the kind of celebrities I want to meet. Like, because I want the celebrities that I'm like, you seem like someone I could hang out with. You
yeah.
seem like someone I could just get to know and who would be fun to hang out with.
You know who strangely is 100% that person, and I never thought in a million years they would be?
Who?
Lisa Lampanelli.
Really?
Yeah. So strange story. My cousin, until she's now had two kids, so she's gone on stay-at-home momship. Um, she fell into a career of becoming Lisa Lampanelli's personal assistant. And and my cousin, she's the sweetest girl, but her mother is a very prudish, you know. So her mom, like, I can't tell my friends that my daughter works for this lady. This lady is evil and says all these bad words.
Uh,
And it's just like, oh, but she treated her really nice. I mean, she was an absolute bull to work for, but I mean, any comedian is. But
yeah. Yeah.
she was really nice to them. Like she bought her wedding dress for her. She came to her wedding and roasted her at her wedding.
Oh.
I got it on film. It was hilarious. Um, but we go out there to go to a Fourth of July party, or not to we. So Lynn becomes a disaster area at the Fourth of July. It's like World War III in Lynn on the Fourth of July. You drive down the street and it feels like you're in the middle of a firefight. That's just how much insanity is going on because people aren't only shooting off, M80s and Roman candles and all this other stuff they shouldn't have. But and again, I'm all about fireworks, but this is a
Hmm.
little much. They're also, like shooting blanks out of shotguns, and
Uh,
stuff like this.
mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
figured our daughter, who is autistic, who this might drive a little nutty, we decided to my cousin and her husband live in Tuxedo Park, which is just north of Manhattan, maybe like an hour tops north of Manhattan. Really nice, like rich area of New York. They're both well to do. And so they invited us out to stay for the 4th of July. So it's, a nice, calm place. And they were like, oh man, we want to throw this your way. You guys can say no, but we got invited to a 4th of July party. Do you guys want to go? And we're like, yeah, where is it? And they go, okay. They go, it's at Lisa's house. And we're like, no shit. And like, yeah, no, it's a low key thing. It's mostly her family and, a couple of her friends will probably be there. And we're like, oh no, we're going. And she was the nicest. Sweet. Like we spent most of the night playing Uno and Pie Face and Bean Boozled and trivia games and singing Hamilton.
That's
Like this was like the
amazing.
majority of hanging out with. And she goes, "Oh yeah, I do a game night every Tuesday night, like at my house, and I invite my cousins and their nephews and all this stuff." And Frank DeCaro from The Daily Show was there. And he is the coolest fucking guy on the planet too. Like I'm sitting there going, I know who this is. I know who this person sitting next to me right now is, and I cannot place his name. So it took me like wait, and so it was just this wild experience, and it like 5 minutes after the starstruckness of the randomness of it all, it was just like hanging out with your friends again, and I'm like, I would have never expected that from this lady because her whole shtick is being so not that person,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
she was being very. She goes, no. She goes, she at the time she was still doing the stand up, which she doesn't do anymore. She's like a self help guru for
Ah.
like people like learning how to like better themselves. Like more power to you, man. That's awesome. But she was like, you know, I actually get sick to my stomach thinking about going out there and berating people. She goes, it's just a shtick I fell into because it was part of the Friars Club. That's what we do. We shit on each other, and I just
Mm-hmm.
turned it into my act, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's so wild because it's like you say terrible things, and you were the sweetest person, and it
That
was awesome. So of
wow.
all ranges, I really mean it. Like if you ever like, I don't know when you'd find yourself in a situation where, but she really is. She's a very nice, inspirational, sweet human being that just happened to be the queen of insult comedy for a long period of time. So when she was on the Celebrity Apprentice, we watched that season, and I hated that show, and I still hate it. But
Mm-hmm.
we watched it because Lisa's on, you know,
Mm-hmm. Sure,
and my,
sure.
my cousin was working for her at the time, and all these shots in the show of like people in the crowd, there's my cousin standing there because what you don't understand I mean, what's obvious but you don't think about it is these stars aren't actually doing any of this stuff. Like we're
Oh,
going
of
and do they're
course.
sending their assistants out to do all of it. And so Jackie was like, oh yeah, I did all of the things, and then she's just there for the filmed part of it.
Of
And it's like, all right,
course.
that's
Yeah.
really funny.
Wow.
And let's just say not necessarily a fan of the gentleman whose television show she was on that's actually running the country.
Ugh.
Yeah. Which is an interesting thing because you never can be quite sure with people.
Oh,
you know?
if you look at, well, you can just look at my Twitter bio, like like I am not shy about my politics at all. I'm
Oh,
about as far
me
left as you
neither.
can get.
Me neither. It's funny that I'm surprised I haven't gotten um pig piled by more of the crazies that chase my brother down all day every day,
Mm-hmm.
because just guilty by association. That's why when I do the show with him, the last thing I ever want to talk about with my brother is politics. Not because I don't agree with him. I agree with him wholeheartedly most of the
Mm-hmm.
time. I
Mm-hmm.
just I just don't need the crazies. He gets death threats. He gets people doxing him and throwing his like home address on websites. I'm like, I don't want that.
Uh,
I don't want this.
oh yeah, I've seen. I mean,
All because of Gamergate.
his exchanges, like the exchanges he gets into on Twitter, and which his Twitter game is on point. Like I
Yeah,
very
he's
much
he's a pro.
appreciate
He's a
because
pro.
he like he is just boom boom boom, just quick with the the wit and the comebacks, and always enjoy seeing him fire back. But yeah, that, oh man, that's gotta be rough. That's gotta, that must take a toll on him, because I can't imagine, like,
Well, the
oof.
thing is too is he's always been the kind of person that if you meet him, anybody, there's not everyone always agrees with my brother Bob, but he's definitely got the gift of being able to win people over. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could disagree, but it has to be done in person, and Twitter removes a lot of that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's like I give him so much credit for taking it as far as he does, but it takes a toll on him because I remember in high school he you know I strangely had a way of having my feet in both worlds. I was a super nerdy kid at home and behind the scenes, but outwardly I was very social and very extroverted and had a lot of friends on the other side of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
all happened because I left the Catholic school I was in and came into my public school, which was actually all the kids I grew up with, but didn't go to school
Ah.
with. And
Mm-hmm.
they all had their freshman year stab each other in the back and everyone hates each other thing where all the cliques are set. And I didn't go to school with them for that. So I was just dancing between everybody. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I could, at school be, hanging out with the kids in chess club and doing that. And then that night be invited to a freaking rager. You know what I
Oh,
mean? I
wow.
was jumping between the two and I didn't recognize that to me, I looked up to my brother, so I didn't really recognize that he didn't have the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so he, um, had a lot of bullies and people to put up with, and there was this kid who was like the head of like just the jerk, like thought he was the Vinnie Barbarino like type of Italian kid.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
one day, my brother, who used to be a real skinny, scrawny, wimpy kid, and now he's, built like me, um, grabbed this kid and pushed him up against the wall and said, "Hey, buddy," and picked his hand up and started moving his thumb. "Can you do this yet?" And the kid looked at him for a minute and he goes, "Opposable thumbs. Have you evolved yet, my friend?" And the kid went, "That's pretty good," and respected him the rest of the time they were there. Like, can you do this?
Wow.
Have you evolved yet? And I'm like, dude, that's brilliant.
That's,
So
yeah.
he had that
Wow.
way of being able to just give it to people that I feel sometimes Twitter doesn't allow, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because Twitter isn't about an even playing field with these people. They're just there to hurt.
Yeah.
And I hate that.
Now, are you Bob's older?
Younger.
Bob's younger.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bob's 3 years older than me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know if you knew this, but he gifted this to me. I would have never. I'm a much more of a conformist when it comes to um, what I do to express myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he built this empire of online YouTube, Twitter insanity before it was even a thing. Like he was at the ground level of YouTube, just like got laid off
Mm-hmm.
his job and started making game overthinker videos, and then all of a sudden he got a job because someone put his videos up for a thing. He didn't try; it just happened. But I helped him make a lot of those, so that made me really proud. um,
Nice.
but
Nice.
he started the Chipman Brothers Tangent, and it wasn't named. He said, "My fans want me to do a podcast." Um, and I think you and I talking would be a really cool way for me to you know, get used to doing a podcast, about, my type of stuff. And I said, cool. And he kept inviting me back on. And after a while, he, kind of had me running it. And then one day he showed up and said, by the way, I want you to name it. And I said, okay. And so me and my wife was her idea to call it the tangent because you guys can never stay on topic. And I said that makes a lot of sense. We'll call it the tangent. All right. And then he showed up and had made me a Patreon and said, "Okay, you know what? People like you." And I go, "No, Bob, they like you." He goes, "No, the comments I get back are, we want more of your brother." He said, "Do this. This is your show. Do something." And so I
Nice.
got addicted to it and started making all this other stuff. So he's always been good like that. Um, he uh, he works his ass off, and if anybody listens to these, I really want them to understand that he means so much to me and to everybody in my kids wouldn't be as happy as they are without his contributions. He's crazy. He
I've picked up on that.
puts
Just
his all
how
into it.
hardworking he is,
Yeah,
and like I think
yeah.
I've tweeted at him something along the lines of, dude, I appreciate your content, but you, your health is important too, and your mental health, and
And believe you me, it affects him.
I'm
Uh,
sure.
it affects him. And that whole debacle with Gamergate and the Escapist was about the worst I've ever seen him. I'll just
Mm,
at that. And he bounced right the fuck back. And I'm really glad, even though it didn't work out so well for Russ in the end.
mm-hmm.
Mental health. I'm really glad that they were able to bring that sucker back because seeing Bob get his shows back
Yeah.
made me so happy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, Karu was watching Bob for a while. I think he's the one that showed me Bob's stuff. But we've been watching, there's his stuff for quite a few years now,
Oh yeah,
and yeah, missed his shows and missed, the faces that he does,
right.
or
The big
the
picture. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, the reaction faces.
yep. And
And
that's the funny. He literally couldn't use those anymore. Like the Escapist, like blocked him.
oh,
You know what I mean? From it's and he won it all back. Like he never thought he'd own any of that ever again.
that's
Kind of
which
nuts.
it's
And I don't even
adults.
know the particulars of it. I just know that it
Hmm.
was a wonderful thing. I you know, have you seen the every once in a while in the Game Overthinker stuff I would pop up? Do you remember any of those? Were you a Game Overthinker fan?
I've watched. I had not specifically. I mean, I've watched a fair amount of them.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't specifically recall seeing you pop up.
I'm always a ninja, which you would never see my face. But all the
Oh,
ninjas were me, all of them.
okay.
And I was the anti-thinker anytime Bob had to fight him. Uh,
Okay,
and
okay.
what else? And I show up in that episode. It was a great gag that I improved. The War of the Thinkers, his 50th episode, I believe it was, and we're in Lynn Woods of all places, right? And at the end of the episode, the camera pans over, and I'm there, and he goes, "Chris," I was like, "Yeah." Who do you think's been filming you this whole goddamn time? And it was just such a good, like,
Nice,
it was a perfect. And he's like, "That was really good." He said, "We're gonna keep that."
nice,
And
nice.
when I say, "Go, who do you think's been filming you this whole time?" And I've been trying to get your attention, and you haven't been responding to me. How do you think that's been making me feel?
Nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, he would always come to our apartment in North Reading with these wacky ideas. Like, I need to film something. I need you and Sarah's help. He goes, "Are there any like pipes around here? Like pipes?" He goes, "Yeah, like concrete pipes, like for construction. Like there actually are." And he goes, "Yeah, I kind of figured there were. I need to beat the crap out of you dressed up in this blue ninja costume inside." All right, whatever works for you, man.
Well, Commissioner, what is it? Commissioner Bonifacio.
Commissioner Bonifacio, that's
That
my poor
was
Dylan.
that was
Oh.
your rabbit, right? Or your
Yeah.
family's rabbit?
No, it's my wife's rabbit, and he died.
Oh, I'm so
My poor
sorry.
Dylan. Yeah, he broke his back.
Oh
That
no.
can happen. He was old, but he broke his back.
Oh yeah.
And now
Oh.
we have little Oliver. He's the same type of bunny. But
Oh, awesome. We
yep.
actually raised rabbits when I was a kid. We
Yep.
had
My wife's a 4-H certified rabbit raiser.
nice. Very cool. Very
Oh
cool.
man. So yeah, it's wow, it's late.
It is. I didn't even realize. Wow. The
Oh, I
time just went quick.
I would like no, it really did, and I would love to have you on any time, just like I said to Cairo, but I need to go to bed.
As
But
do I.
I appreciate this. I always give everybody a chance. Do you have something you want to plug? I know that you guys do a show. Please do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Karu and I do sequentially-yours.com. which is all comic book related stuff. I'm mainly on the comic book movie
Nice.
vlogs. Usually there has it where we have kind of not put out new content and it's been some time. But yeah, there's a number of vlogs on there. We talked about Man of Steel. We talked about Justice League. And we talked about X-Men Apocalypse, but a bunch of different ones. And I had a really good time doing
Sounds like
that.
a really downer group of movies you just mentioned there.
There were some
No,
good ones in
I'm
there
messing around.
too.
We
And
talk we talk about stuff to really get people going in a positive light on the internet, like the
yes,
Justice League. Oh,
yes, yes.
huh?
That and also, I'm probably most active on Twitter.
Yep.
You can look for my name, or you can look for Bastet8300, and I'm always game to interact with people there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, Debbie. Thank you very much for shooting the shit with Chippa. And
Well,
everybody else, I'll talk to you all soon.
all right. Well, thank you for having me.